So, Working Wellbeing's podcast live at the water cooler. We are here with Stella from Entain. Do you want to introduce yourself for our listeners?
Hello, Matt. Nice to see you again.
Yeah.
So yes, I'm Stella. I work at Entain as the Global Head of Wellbeing. I have over 10 years of experience working for big, large organizations, complex organizations, developing and designing and implementing wellbeing programs. I am massively passionate about helping people and organizations to thrive. So excited to be here.
Lovely, lovely. Right then, so this is going to be one of those interviews where I would like you to start right at the beginning. Where did your passion for wellbeing start? What's the journey that took you from there to today? And you can start wherever you like.
So, as for many people, when you're passionate about well-being, the prevention side of things is usually because you either at some point of your life kind of lost your own well-being or health and well-being, or you've seen someone that you really love lost in his or hers. And for me, it was the latter. So my mum was diagnosed with terminal cancer. It was pretty quick, but during the time I was a bit in denial, and I started to research all the things that could help her and all the kind of alternative medicines and included a lot of nutrition and different types of exercise, etc. And she did pass away, but it was much longer and the process was much easier than what the doctor said it would be. But what it left me was with two strong feelings. The first one was around, life could change at any time, and your health is your biggest asset. Nothing is more important than that, because everything that you really care about in life, you can't do without your health. So that was the first realization. And the second realization was that I wanted to do something with that information. I wanted that to be my mission, to make sure that people are aware of that.
Yeah. So what were you doing at the time? Were you in a different role? Or?
So, yeah, completely. I was in project management. Project management.
Yeah.
So
in the corporate setting, or?
In the corporate setting. Yeah. But the good thing is, the lucky thing, I guess, I was working for a company that health and well-being is what they do as an organization. I was working for Bupa. And so I was always involved with projects, delivering projects that would somehow help people live longer, healthier lives. And so, yeah, I was in the right environment, and then I, mentioned that to my manager, which was a fantastic manager, and he definitely wanted to help me. Again, a little bit of luck. There was a bit of transformation going on in the organization, and like employee workplace health and well-being became very high in the agenda, and they were recruiting different people to help they, fulfill their mission. And so I just got myself into some sort of ambassador champion role, and have both of my kind of jobs at the same time, and then add a lot of value in that role. From there, I got a just permanent full-time job, and then moved my way up in that way in the organization, and then left Bupa to Entain and been working full-time again, completely dedicated to well-being. Like I said, implementing the well-being strategy for them. When I first moved there was nothing in place. There was only a very underutilized EAP. And so it was a great pleasure to kind of, develop the strategy and the different pillars from scratch.
Got you. So you moved into a dedicated role within Entain from the start. Were you global head of, what did you say? You are global head of health and wellbeing, right? Was that?
Yes. Now I started, I was, but it was a senior manager position, and then that then became more senior within the organization.
Okay.
But it was always dedicated just for wellbeing.
Got you. And in your position now, where do you sit in the organization?
Yes, I am sitting as the Global Head of Wellbeing.
Are you aligned with health and safety, or is it with HR? Or
I used to be health and safety, and now recently we went to people team.
Okay. So was that your decision? Was that the business?
No, it was a business transformation, and reorganization.
What was the reasoning behind that?
It's just a restructure. They kind of split one of the areas that had health and safety, risk, governance, and environment, and they split it into different areas and kind of remove the HSSE, and then they split those areas into different functions. Yeah. And well-being made sense to go to the people team. It does make sense, doesn't it?
Yeah. No, I only ask because it's really interesting. We speak to so many different well-being leaders, and it's interesting. They sit in different places in an organisation. There might be health and safety. It might be aligned with HR. It might be sometimes it's more benefit side of things. What I've kind of heard is that there's no right or wrong place for it to sit. It's more what works for the organisation at a particular time.
100%. I would totally agree with that. And I've seen working really well in different functions. And we are actually under the people function, but in the reward and benefit department.
Yes, got you.
But it could have, worked really well in, if we were in the diversity and inclusion department, or I've seen corporate affairs as well working really well. So yeah, absolutely.
But I'm assuming you work closely with those departments anyway.
Yeah, 100%.
Yeah, got you. So during that whole process, that whole career that you've embarked on, or even in the last few years in terms of your current role, what have been the things that you're most proud of that you've achieved?
Oh, there's so many proud moments. I think developing a strategy that is now global and a global brand for wellbeing at Entain was a biggest achievement, because at Bupa you already have a well-cooked wellbeing strategy, and it was all about enhancing, improving, making work more effectively. But for Entain was building from the ground and really seeing kind of going from, a strategy on a paper to what people feel and what people do, and embedding across all the employee touch points, and having people having the same experience across the globe in 20 countries. I think that was quite special.
That's interesting. So you've got the strategy. So so it's obviously held centrally, but then you say you're in 28 different countries. So how do you ensure that it's adapted to those countries so that it makes sense for them?
Yeah, great question. And I love talk about this. Yeah. How long do we have?
Well, yeah, sometime. Go for it.
No, I'll try to summarize. So one of the first thing I did at Entain, and it was very much how we organize ourselves at Bupa as well. And many organization has this set up because it works. It is to have like a Glocal approach. So
Glocal.
Yes, the Glocal approach. So you have global standards. Yep. You might have one to three global programs that everyone has the same experience, or and a couple of benefits as well. So you have your global offering, but it's very much localized and powered by your local network. So one of the first things I did was to set up the network. And it started very small with just a few countries involved. And now we have a representation, across the group. And the way it works and how it works really well is that you have two layers of stakeholders. You have your wellbeing leads. So these are the people more typically they are HRBPs, or they are in roles that have some relations to wellbeing. And they do that, it's formalized that, that role as a wellbeing lead. And then in each location, you also create your champions community. And the wellbeing lead on that location will be the one running that community. And so as we meet on a monthly basis with the lead, you get all the feedback from the champions and from the people on the ground. Yeah. And that feedback is what feeds our program, shapes the program. That's how we create the programs, with the feedback of that network.
Yeah, got you. So with the strategy, that sounds like a really great approach. So you've got a constant stream of, I'm guessing, more qualitative data coming back in from what people are saying, right? Mm-hmm. Do you have any more kind of objective data that you track as part of the strategy and hold yourselves accountable?
Yes. Yes, we have a number of data points that we use to make sure that the program is adding value. We don't focus on IOI.
Okay.
Where's
IOI?
Returns of return.
Oh, ROI.
ROI,
Oh, I thought you said IOI. I thought you got something new here that I've not heard of. IOI. Sorry, apologies.
No, we don't focus on ROI,
Yes.
return of investment. We focus on return of value.
Yes, love that.
So it's our people more engaged because of our program, or our program is contributing to engagement. What is the utilization of our benefits? Are people using it? Are people, making the most of it and adding? Are the benefits adding value? And then we look into engagement, into campaigns as well. Are people kind of clicking on the campaigns that we launch using our internet type? We look into the data of our equivalent of EAP. We have moved away from the traditional EAP. We now have more like an online service where people can book their own therapist,
Yes.
and we gave people ownership of their own mental health. And we look into, how are people, are contacting the therapist or the counseling for. We also measure whether, and obviously this is all aggregated data, Tony can say.
Yeah.
We also measure how much we are helping in terms of reducing anxiety and reducing depression or low mood for those that are having counseling or therapy.
Okay. Yeah.
That's some of the points that we look into.
And do you have a set of kind of KPIs that are reported on almost like a board level, or is it?
Yes,
Yeah.
we do. And it's good that you ask, because I think for a mature program, you need to have that network that I mentioned to you, but you also need to report on a, quarterly basis, on a regular basis to the board. And we do have that set up as well.
Great.
But the KPI that we have is only one. Two actually. We have a question in our annual survey. It's called Your Voice, and it's the survey that we kind of do on an annually based. We have like 80%, 90% of our employees doing that survey, and we really thoroughly
80-90% fill it.
Yeah, it's a very, very high completion.
How are you getting 90% of people to
a lot of reminders and a lot
bribing
of
people?
a lot of support from leadership, a lot of support from the CEO. It's very much comes to the top.
Yeah. So you've got an item on there that you track over time. Yeah. And you said there were two. So there were two items.
So there's a question in that survey about wellbeing that we track over time. And in addition to that, we have one of our key initiatives is to train managers to, having good conversations with their teams about well-being. And we track how many managers have done this training and how many of them are taking action off the back of their trainings. So that is our KPIs.
How do you capture the action?
It's survey pre and post assessment.
Oh, okay. I got it. Yeah. So, sorry, I'm getting into your strategy. But I'm always fascinated. What I'd love is for organizations. It's one of the reasons why I set up and created the community, was I would love for organizations to be able to share their strategies with one another.
Yeah.
I don't know. I'm not asking you to commit to that now, by the way. But what I'm saying is, especially when it comes to something like a well-being strategy, I feel like organizations aren't going to kind of hold that in the same way that they might do their financial strategy or their operations strategy. They are more willing to share. I mean, you're probably talking about aspects of it at the event today, right?
Yeah.
But it'd be great if we could get organizations to share all that good work, right? That they're doing.
100%. And there are some networks out there that allows that to happen. But I find that the day I found a network that maybe doesn't have tons of suppliers around it might be, you might end up having like more meaningful conversations.
Yeah, that's interesting. I had one more question about your strategy. What time period's on it? So,
And
is it over a period of time or just ongoing?
This is our 2 cycle of 3-year plan.
Okay. Yeah.
So yeah, this is the year 6. So we haven't finished 2 cycles, and yeah, we're just coming up cooking what's coming next.
The next 3 years, yeah. That's interesting. 3 years seems to be the sweet spot for a lot of the organisations that I speak to, you know, because 1 year is not enough to get anything off the ground, right? But then I have come across, we spoke to someone on the podcast a little while ago, they had a 10-year strategy for wellbeing, and they said it was a mistake. They said that essentially so much changed during that 10 years that you couldn't possibly predict, you know, and have a coherent plan that spanned that amount of time.
Yeah, and even if even a 3-year plan can be sometimes a bit long, but as long as it's good to have it, because as long as people and your stakeholders understand that this is not going to be finished and complete, and the tick of these initiatives will be ticked in a year or 2, you have at least 3 years, and is more likely to need to then do the next cycle again. And the work is never complete. It's never done. We're always evolving. We're always changing. You know, you know very well, Matt, how the need of mental health, the expectations of mental health at work has completely changed and evolved over the last 10 years or so.
Yeah, absolutely. So I asked you about your proudest moments. What have you messed up? No, what have been your biggest challenges, I guess?
Right, I did mess up plenty of times, but let's go with the second question.
Yeah. What have been the challenges? What
the biggest challenge is to remain making sure we are top on agenda in organizations. Well-being is top on agenda. You know, well-being is in the forefront of leadership, that we don't forget, and make sure that well-being is aligned with the key initiatives.
Yes.
And it's not sitting over there, you know, around the corner in silence. It's how can we make, you know, well-being the DNA of organizations, and be like sprinkle a little bit of well-being everywhere.
Yes.
And that is a big challenge, because, you know, when you look back and think about the pandemic, well-being became such a priority.
Absolutely.
Everyone was talking about it. It was in all the big initiatives and top on an agenda. And then as we, you know, moved on and progressed and you know, got out of the pandemic, and now companies are actually, you know, cutting costs, etc. We need to make sure that well-being is still high in the agenda, and the cost is not going to be cutting from there, because the well-being is what's going to enable us come out of, you know, financial problems.
So what effect does, if a trend comes, I shouldn't call it a trend, but, you know, so for example, there's been a big increase in the focus on things like women's health, menopause. There's also been a big focus on maybe slightly away from well-being, more the kind of DEI side of things, neurodiversity, for example. When something like that comes along, what's the line that you have to strike between that being integrated into the sorts of things that you're doing, but the risk that actually takes eyes away from well-being? I don't know. I'll probably not phrase that correctly.
I totally get it. This is an ongoing challenge. That is another challenge.
There's a risk that they'll follow the latest fad, you know,
so much
without calling those things fads. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah, there's so much we can do, and everyone has an opinion in the workplace when it comes to well-being, because it's so personal. And yes, and you still see the trends, which are there for good reason. Yes. You know, you're seeing, you know, menopause trends, and you're seeing neurodiversity. All of that is so important, but which one do you do first?
Exactly.
And I think that's why it's very important that you have a strategic plan and you stick to it, but you also allow enough flexibility that if something is so important and is actually now more important than one initiative that is in your plan, that you review and you swap. You need to keep it flexible, and you need to keep it relevant. Yeah. But it doesn't necessarily to be like, that's the thing that everyone talked about. That's what we need to do as well.
Yes.
And that's why we rely a lot in data. If that's what yes, maybe that's what the media is saying, but is it what our people want?
It's true.
Is this what people are using? Say, for instance, we have a library of resources. Are people using the menopause training there?
Yeah.
And is that something that's being used for? Is there anything else that we need to do in that space? So we really are guided by data rather than by the trend.
That's a really good answer. That was a really good answer. Absolutely. So I want to ask about you personally. So during that whole journey that you've taken and even now, what are the attributes that have helped you be successful in your role?
Oh, that's a difficult one, isn't it? Without saying...
Without being big-headed. No, I want you to be big-headed. I want you to be big-headed. What makes you great at what you do?
Well, I think my background in project management and change management helped a lot.
Yeah.
Because with wellbeing programs, you need to follow very similar aspects as a business transformation program. You still need to engage stakeholders. You still need to take them in a journey, and we still need to prove the business case. You still need to get people on board. So say, for instance, with the Global Wellbeing Network, you need to get people on board and build a cross-functional team that can move things forward. Those are all skills that you need to when you are doing a job like mine. Influence skills is very important. The ability to motivate, inspire people to take time off their normal day-to-day job to do something that will help their own well-being and the well-being of other people is very important. And just change management, because you basically transforming culture. So you need that kind of skill as well.
Yeah, really interesting. How do you role model? How do you look after your own well-being?
So much. How long do we have?
A couple of minutes.
Okay, so if I had to summarize what I do, I try to do, like with my diet and with my exercise, I try to go with the most natural approach. I don't go to any like trendy diets. I go what can I eat that's closer to the nature as possible, that is clean as possible. So I really focus on my nutrition, but the natural side of it. I also exercise every day. It's my absolutely non-negotiable I need for my mental health more than anything else. So exercise, and I also do. My approaches for my well-being is also holistic. I've learned to put as much time as my physical health, I put in my mental health as well. So I do practice meditation, I do breath work. And intuitive is the final part of my approach to my own mental health. It's like, what do I feel like doing today? What does my body need?
Really?
Yeah.
If I did that, it would lead me down a bad path. I just did I think my body needs it.
Pizza.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. What do I need today? Pizza. Yeah. Again. Yeah. I was going to ask you one final question. You talk about your skills before, your development. So how do you keep developing yourself? Is there any informal, but also are there any formal routes you take to develop
There's lots
skills?
of informal routes that I have taken. Practice was what was my main route, like just doing the work. Also, I did a course on to be a well-being coach, and then a life coach and a resilience coach. So I did lots of courses for improving my coaching skills, because I think that's another thing that you really need, another attribute that you really need to do my work. And I'm currently doing a functional wellness training as well.
So what's functional wellness?
Oh, functional wellness is basically it's all the preventative work, but it's so you see your nutrition, your exercise, your emotional regulation, everything, but it's done very bespoke to your needs, to your body, and also often you have to do a series of tests to see what is it that you need. So it's bespoke preventative well-being.
Yeah. So it sounds like you live it. It sounds like, it started with obviously a personal reason for getting into this line of work, but then you still live it day by day around well-being. But at the same time, you've got the background in project management and the corporate background that is very much focused on the data, the strategy, and that's interesting. They're not two sides of the same coin or a different coin, but you do need those two parts, right?
I think it's two sides of the same coin.
Right, yeah.
I think you do need your knowledge on well-being, and you also need your knowledge on how to create change.
Yes. Yeah.
And then which you could be like someone from a medical background that then educate yourself on some sort of program manager, change management, or vice versa.
Yes.
But I think you need both.
Nice. Sounds good. And what are you talking about at the event today?
We are talking about providing the right care for mental health at the right time in global organizations.
Great. So you're in a conversation with some other organizations
Yes.
as well? Yeah. That'll be interesting. I'll try and make it if I possibly can, if I'm not stuck in here. So the last thing I need to ask you, I always ask all my guests, is where can people find you if you want them to find you?
LinkedIn is the best place really for people to find me. Just type my name there and I'll be there. I am quite good at answering DMs. It's the best place to find me, I suppose.
Yeah, sounds great. Well, it's been a pleasure speaking to you. Thank you so much for joining us in the booth, and enjoy the rest of your day. Best luck with the talk.
Thank you.
Thanks.
Thank you much.
Thanks for listening to the podcast. This episode is brought to you by Wellhub, the corporate wellness platform transforming how companies care for their teams with a single subscription. Get an exclusive free trial using the link in the description below.